Calmness is not just the absence of chaos around you. It is the ability to remain unshaken no matter what life throws at you. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome believed that the mind has the ultimate power to decide how external events affect us. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a central figure in Stoicism, often reminded himself that, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that calmness is not a gift from the outside world, but a discipline we cultivate inside ourselves. To train your mind to stay calm in any situation, you must learn to detach from the illusion that you can control everything. Instead, focus only on what lies within your influence: your thoughts, your judgments, and your reactions. When a storm rages outside, you cannot stop the winds, but you can decide whether to let them disturb your inner peace. Calmness, in the Stoic sense, is not weakness or passivity. It is strength in its purest form, because it shows mastery over the self. Imagine two people facing the same problem. One panics and loses control, while the other pauses, breathes, and takes thoughtful action. The external problem remains the same, but the inner response determines who suffers more and who emerges stronger. Training your mind for calmness requires daily practice, much like training a muscle. The more you exercise patience, reflection, and self-control, the stronger your ability to remain steady becomes. This first lesson of Stoicism teaches us that calmness is a deliberate choice, an inner fortress that no external event can penetrate unless you open the gates yourself. A central Stoic teaching is that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become one of the greatest Stoic teachers, taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can always control how we interpret it. For example, losing a job may feel like a disaster to one person, but like an opportunity for growth to another. The event is the same, but the perception is different. To train your mind to stay calm, you must begin by questioning the stories you tell yourself in moments of difficulty. Ask yourself, is this event truly harmful, or is it only my interpretation making it appear so? Often, we exaggerate problems by labeling them as catastrophic when in reality, they are simply challenges to be overcome. By practicing the Stoic discipline of perception, you can strip events of their emotional weight and see them for what they really are: neutral occurrences in the flow of life. Imagine yourself as a sailor. The sea may be rough, but you decide whether to panic and lose control of the ship, or to steady your hands on the wheel and guide yourself through the waves. Calmness arises when we stop fighting reality and start adjusting our sails. The Stoics remind us that life will always be uncertain, but our perception can either enslave us or liberate us. By training yourself to reinterpret obstacles as opportunities, you develop an unshakable calmness that no storm can take away. Each time you shift your perspective from fear to wisdom, you strengthen your ability to remain at peace in any situation. At the core of Stoicism lies the dichotomy of control, the recognition that some things are within our power and others are not. Calmness comes from understanding this truth deeply and living accordingly. Many of our anxieties come from trying to control outcomes that are beyond our reach. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, or the passage of time. The Stoics teach us that peace is found not by changing the world, but by aligning ourselves with it. When you focus only on what is within your control, your actions, your character, and your choices, you reclaim your power. Suppose you face criticism at work. You cannot control whether someone else speaks negatively about you, but you can control how you respond. Do you lash out in anger, or do you respond calmly, with reason and dignity? By releasing the need to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. This mindset is not about indifference, but about clarity. It teaches us to act wisely where our actions matter, and to accept with serenity what lies beyond us. Think of a farmer who plants seeds. He cannot control the rain or the sun, but he can control how diligently he tends to his fields. In life, Your effort is your responsibility, but the outcome is in the hands of fate. Calmness is cultivated by shifting attention away from what you cannot change and investing it fully into what you can. This practice builds resilience and reduces frustration, allowing you to face even the hardest trials with quiet strength. Emotions are powerful forces, and left unchecked, they can overwhelm reason and destroy inner peace. Stoicism does not suggest eliminating emotions but rather mastering them. The Stoics believed that anger, fear, envy, and despair are products of poor judgments and can be corrected through rational reflection. To train your mind to stay calm, you must learn to observe your emotions without being enslaved by them. Imagine anger as a wild horse. If you let it run freely, it will drag you into chaos. But if you hold the reins, you can channel its energy into constructive action. The Stoic practice of journaling, for example, helps you reflect on your emotional triggers and correct the false beliefs behind them. If someone insults you, instead of reacting with rage, you can pause and ask, does this insult truly harm me, or does it only reveal the character of the person speaking? By reframing situations, you regain power over your emotional state. Calmness is not the absence of feeling but the art of responding wisely. When fear arises, ask yourself whether the danger is real or imagined. When sadness appears, reflect on whether you are resisting the natural course of life. Emotional mastery allows you to face the world with equanimity. The Stoics remind us that no external force has the right to disturb our mind unless we grant it permission. By strengthening the discipline of emotional control, you train yourself to remain unshaken even in the face of provocation, tragedy, or uncertainty. One of the most challenging but essential Stoic practices for maintaining calm is detachment. This does not mean apathy or indifference to life, but rather the ability to engage fully without becoming enslaved by attachment to outcomes. The Stoics saw all external things, wealth, health, reputation, relationships, as preferred indifference. They can be enjoyed, but they should not define our peace of mind. When you tie your happiness to things beyond your control, you make yourself vulnerable to despair. Detachment is the art of loving deeply, while understanding that everything in life is temporary. For example, you may value your job, but if losing it destroys your peace completely, then your calmness is built on unstable ground. By practicing detachment, you learn to say, I will give my best, but I do not cling to the results. This mindset brings freedom. It allows you to walk through life with open hands rather than clenched fists. Detachment does not reduce love or passion. It refines them. It teaches you to appreciate the present moment without demanding that it last forever. Calmness arises when you stop clinging to what you cannot keep. Like a traveler enjoying the scenery on a journey, you can experience life's joys while accepting that the path continues. The more you practice detachment, the more resilient your mind becomes. Instead of breaking under loss or disappointment, you bend with grace and return to balance. In Stoicism, detachment is not about rejecting life, but about embracing it with wisdom and serenity. The Stoics believed that calmness is not achieved in a single day, but cultivated through consistent daily practice. One of their most powerful tools was reflection. Marcus Aurelius used his personal journal, later known as meditations, to examine his thoughts, test his emotions, and remind himself of Stoic truths. By writing down his reflections each day, he strengthened his ability to remain calm amid the burdens of ruling an empire. Daily reflection helps you to observe patterns in your mind and recognize the beliefs that create unrest. Perhaps you notice that you often grow anxious when deadlines approach, or that you lose patience when others disagree with you. By reflecting honestly, you uncover the roots of your reactions and prepare strategies to face them calmly. Reflection is not about judgment but about clarity. It allows you to separate what is within your control from what is not, and to remind yourself of the values you wished to live by. A practical way to train calmness is to start each day by affirming Stoic principles. Today, I will meet people who are selfish, rude, or ungrateful, but I will not let them disturb my peace. At night, review your day. Where did you remain calm? Where did you falter? With each reflection, you sharpen your self-awareness and strengthen your inner discipline. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, allowing you to face any situation with equanimity. Calmness is not luck. It is the result of constant self-examination and growth. A calm mind is not built in comfort, but in challenge. The Stoics often practiced voluntary discomfort to prepare themselves for life's unpredictability. They would expose themselves to cold, hunger, or simple living conditions, not to punish themselves but to build resilience. Seneca advised, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared?' By experiencing discomfort willingly, you reduce the fear of it. When difficulties arise unexpectedly, you will not be shocked or broken, because your mind is already trained to endure. Calmness grows stronger when you stop avoiding hardship and begin embracing it as training. For example, fasting for a day teaches you that hunger is not unbearable, sleeping on the floor shows you that comfort is not a necessity, and taking on physical or mental challenges reveals your hidden strength. Life will test you with losses, setbacks, and struggles, but each trial can become an opportunity to deepen your calmness. By practicing discomfort, you learn that most fears are exaggerated in the mind. When you stop being ruled by fear of loss or hardship, you remain calm even when fate takes away what you value. This Stoic discipline is not about rejecting pleasure, but about proving to yourself that peace does not depend on it. True calmness is born when nothing external has the power to unsettle you, because you have already trained your mind to stand firm. One of the deepest Stoic teachings is the acceptance of impermanence. Everything we love, everything we fear losing, and even our own lives are temporary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Consider how ephemeral and mean all mortal things are." At first glance, this reflection may seem depressing, but in truth, it is liberating. When you accept impermanence, you stop clinging desperately to what you cannot keep, and calmness arises naturally. If you fear death, every small misfortune seems unbearable. But when you accept death as a natural part of existence, daily challenges lose their sting. Similarly, when you understand that wealth, fame, and health are fleeting, you stop placing your peace of mind in them. Instead, you learn to appreciate them while they last, without depending on them for happiness. The Stoics practiced a technique called memento mori, remembering death, not to promote despair, but to sharpen their sense of what truly matters. By reminding yourself that life is short, you become more grateful for each moment, more forgiving of others, and more resilient when hardships arrive. Impermanence teaches us that calmness is found not in holding tightly, but in flowing gracefully with the passage of time. Just as a river continues its journey, regardless of the rocks in its path, so too must we continue our journey, embracing change instead of resisting it. The more you accept impermanence, the more unshakable your calm becomes. You realize that nothing can truly be taken from you, for everything was only borrowed from nature in the first place. For the Stoics, calmness was not an isolated skill, but the natural result of living a virtuous life. Virtue, defined as wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, was the highest good. A person who acts with virtue cannot be disturbed by external misfortunes, because their peace rests on the solid foundation of character, not circumstance. Imagine two people facing the same injustice. One reacts with anger and bitterness, while the other responds with fairness and dignity. The latter remains calm, because their actions are aligned with virtue, which no one can take away. Virtue acts like an anchor for the mind in stormy seas. When you know that your choices are guided by justice and integrity, you feel no need to panic or compromise your peace. Wisdom teaches you to see events clearly. Courage helps you endure hardship. Justice ensures fairness in your dealings. And self-discipline keeps your desires in check. These four cardinal virtues work together to create a life of stability and calmness. To train your mind, you must cultivate virtue in small daily decisions. Choosing honesty when it is easier to lie, patience when it is easier to lash out, moderation when it is easier to indulge. Each virtuous choice strengthens your calmness because it builds trust between you and your own conscience. External chaos may surround you, but if your soul is anchored in virtue, no storm can overthrow your peace. Calmness, in the Stoic sense, is not passive stillness. It is the active confidence that comes from living a life of virtue. Another Stoic key to calmness is the ability to remain in the present moment. Much of our anxiety comes from being trapped in regrets about the past or worries about the future. The Stoics constantly reminded themselves that the present is the only time we truly possess. Epictetus advised, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." This teaching directs our attention to the here and now. When you dwell on the past, you stir up resentment and guilt. When you obsess about the future, you create fear and uncertainty. But when you stay rooted in the present, calmness naturally emerges. For example, if you are facing a difficult conversation, your anxiety may rise by imagining all possible outcomes. But if you focus only on speaking honestly in the moment, the fear lessens. Present moment awareness also deepens gratitude, because you begin to notice life as it unfolds instead of missing it, while your mind wanders elsewhere. The Stoics did not reject planning or learning from the past, but they warned against allowing those thoughts to dominate the mind. Training yourself to stay present requires deliberate practice. Simple habits like pausing to take a deep breath, observing your surroundings, or reminding yourself, "This moment is enough," can strengthen your calmness. Life is lived one moment at a time, and by mastering the present, you gain mastery over all. Calmness is born not in yesterday or tomorrow, but in the stillness of now. The Stoics practiced a powerful exercise called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This meant calmly imagining potential difficulties before they occur, so that the mind is prepared and not easily shaken when adversity arises. Instead of being blindsided by misfortune, you expect it, and therefore it loses much of its power to disturb you. For example, before a journey, you may reflect, "The weather may be harsh, delays may happen, or I may lose something along the way." By anticipating these outcomes, you train yourself to respond with calm acceptance instead of shock or anger. This practice is not pessimism, it is resilience in action. Just as soldiers train for battle before stepping onto the field, so must the mind prepare for life's inevitable challenges. When you practice premeditatio malorum, you begin to see problems as natural occurrences rather than unfair burdens. Losing money, facing illness, or enduring insult are no longer surprises, but events you have already rehearsed in your mind. This anticipation builds calmness, because you realize that nothing is truly unbearable when faced with preparation. The Stoics remind us, if you only hope for smooth waters, you will panic when the storm arrives. But if you have already practiced steering your ship through the storm in your imagination, you will remain steady when the waves rise. Calmness comes from knowing that while difficulties are certain, they are also survivable, and with preparation, even growth-producing. The way we speak to ourselves in difficult situations greatly influences our calmness. The Stoics often relied on reasoned self-talk to guide their minds through hardship. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself with simple phrases. "If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, then stop complaining." These internal reminders acted as anchors, bringing him back to clarity when emotions threatened to overwhelm him. To train your own mind, you must develop a strong inner dialogue rooted in wisdom. When anger rises, you can say, "This insult harms me only if I choose to accept it." When fear appears, you can remind yourself, "The future is uncertain for all, but I can face it with courage." Such inner dialogue acts like a shield against emotional chaos. Instead of letting negative thoughts spiral uncontrollably, you intervene with reason. Over time, These reminders reshape your mental habits, making calmness your default state. It is important that this dialogue is simple and direct. Long, complicated reasoning is not useful in moments of stress, but short Stoic affirmations can cut through panic instantly. For example, "This too shall pass," or "I control my response," can serve as powerful anchors. The more often you practice this dialogue, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, your inner voice will act like a wise companion, guiding you through storms with clarity and calm. The Stoics knew that life is filled with noise, but by cultivating a strong inner voice of reason, you create a refuge of calm within yourself. Calmness does not mean passivity. A Stoic mind is not one that withdraws from life's challenges, but one that acts decisively where it can and accepts serenely where it cannot. This balance between action and acceptance is key to maintaining inner peace. Many people lose calmness because they swing to extremes. Either they fight against uncontrollable circumstances with endless frustration, or they give up entirely, refusing to take responsibility for what is within their power. The Stoics teach a middle path. If you lose your job, for instance, calmness means accepting the loss without despair, while also taking proactive steps to seek new opportunities. If illness strikes, calmness means enduring the pain without bitterness, while also pursuing treatment with wisdom. In every situation, there is both something to accept and something to act upon. The challenge is distinguishing between the two. The Stoics sharpened this awareness through reflection. What here is within my control? What here must I accept? By asking these questions, you prevent wasted energy and preserve your calmness. Life is a combination of fate and free will, and calmness is the art of living harmoniously with both. Imagine a sailor at sea. He cannot control the winds, but he can adjust his sails. If he fights the wind, he exhausts himself. If he refuses to act, he drifts aimlessly. But if he works with the wind wisely, he moves forward with calm strength. This is the Stoic way: calm in acceptance, steady in action. Gratitude is one of the most underrated Stoic practices for cultivating calm. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, the turbulence of desire and envy begins to settle. Seneca often wrote about the importance of appreciating the present blessings of life, no matter how small. Gratitude shifts your perspective from restlessness to contentment. When difficulties arise, gratitude reminds you that even in hardship, there are gifts to be acknowledged. The breath in your lungs, the lessons learned through pain, the opportunity to grow in strength. A grateful mind is less easily disturbed because it is already trained to see the good hidden within the bad. For example, if you face financial struggle, you might remind yourself, "Though I lack wealth, I still have my health and my ability to work." If you lose a relationship, you might reflect, "Though this person is gone, I was fortunate to experience love at all." Gratitude does not deny suffering but reframes it, softening its sting. Calmness arises because your attention is not consumed by loss, but balanced by appreciation. The Stoics taught that fortune is unpredictable. Today's abundance may vanish tomorrow. But if you have trained your mind to be grateful for the present, you will not collapse under loss. Gratitude builds resilience and keeps the heart steady. In daily life, practicing gratitude through reflection, journaling, or prayer strengthens the calm foundation upon which you stand. It transforms anxiety into acceptance and restlessness into serenity. Stoicism reminds us that calmness is not just an individual pursuit, but also a product of how we relate to others. Marcus Aurelius often reflected that human beings are made for cooperation, like feet, hands, and eyelids working together. Recognizing our shared humanity helps us remain calm in the face of conflict, disappointment, and betrayal. When someone wrongs you, the Stoics suggest remembering, they act this way because they do not know better. Just as you would not be angry at a child who makes a mistake, so too can you respond with patience to the ignorance of others. This does not mean tolerating injustice, but rather addressing it without losing your inner peace. When you see yourself as part of a larger human family, your perspective widens, and the offenses of individuals lose their power to disturb you. Calmness grows when you replace judgment with understanding. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with compassion or quiet firmness. Stoicism also teaches that your own calmness benefits the community. A calm leader brings stability to a group, just as a calm parent soothes a household. By training your mind to remain steady, you contribute to the harmony of those around you. Human life is deeply interconnected, and when you cultivate calmness, you are not only serving yourself, but also offering strength to others. The Stoics understood that peace within the self radiates outward, influencing the world in silent but powerful ways. In a world full of noise and constant distraction, silence is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating calmness. The Stoics valued silence because it allows the mind to observe itself without interference. Words spoken in haste often fuel anger, deepen misunderstandings, and create unnecessary conflict. But when you practice silence, you gain the space to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Seneca advised that we should speak only when our words are better than silence. Training your mind to remain calm often begins with restraining your tongue. For example, when provoked by insult, silence prevents escalation. When faced with uncertainty, silence allows you to reflect before making decisions. In silence, the mind regains clarity, and emotions lose their immediate grip. This practice is not about avoiding communication, but about valuing the quality of your responses over the quantity of your words. Calmness grows stronger when you learn that not every opinion requires a reply, and not every conflict demands your voice. By embracing silence, you build a reserve of inner strength. Silence also deepens your awareness of the present, as you begin to notice subtleties of thought and emotion that often go overlooked. Just as calm waters reflect the sky clearly, so too does a silent mind reflect truth with greater precision. In the modern world, cultivating silence may mean turning off distractions, practicing mindfulness, or spending time alone in nature. Through silence, you train your mind to resist the chaos of noise and remain steady, no matter the circumstances. The Stoics believed that human beings are part of nature, and much of our unrest comes from forgetting this truth. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to live in harmony with the universe, accepting its laws and rhythms. Observing nature teaches calmness because it shows us the wisdom of acceptance. The river does not resist the rocks in its path, it flows around them. The tree does not curse the storm, it bends with the wind and grows stronger in its roots. When you align your mind with nature, you stop resisting reality and begin moving with it. This alignment reduces frustration and nurtures peace. For example, when illness arises, instead of asking, "Why me?" the Stoic asks, "Why not me?" Illness is part of nature's cycle. When plans fail, instead of despairing, you remember that the seasons change, and so too do human fortunes. Calmness comes from recognizing that life is not against you. It simply unfolds according to its own order. By observing nature, whether through watching the sunrise, walking among trees, or reflecting on the stars, you reconnect with a perspective larger than your individual worries. You realize that your troubles, though pressing, are small in the vast scheme of existence. This awareness shrinks anxiety and fosters calm acceptance. The Stoics remind us when you live in harmony with nature, you live in harmony with yourself. Your mind finds peace not by controlling the universe, but by joining its eternal flow. One of the most empowering Stoic teachings for maintaining calm is the idea that obstacles can be transformed into opportunities. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Instead of allowing difficulties to disturb their calm, the Stoics trained themselves to see them as tools for growth. Every obstacle is a chance to practice patience, courage, resilience, or wisdom. For example, when someone insults you, it is an opportunity to practice restraint and self-control. When you lose money, it is an opportunity to practice detachment. When plans collapse, It is an opportunity to practice adaptability. Calmness arises because you stop seeing problems as threats and begin viewing them as teachers. Imagine a sculptor working with stone. Every strike of the hammer shapes the form into something greater. Likewise, every challenge shapes your character into something stronger. The Stoics believe that fate will bring hardships not to destroy us, but to refine us. By training your mind to reinterpret obstacles, you preserve calmness in situations that would otherwise create despair. This mindset does not deny difficulty, but it transforms it. Instead of being paralyzed by problems, you turn them into pathways forward. When you adopt this Stoic principle, life no longer feels like a series of crises but like a continuous journey of growth. Calmness then becomes natural, because you know that whatever happens, it can be used for your benefit. The Stoics often reflected on how they would be remembered, not in terms of wealth or fame, but in terms of character. A calm mind leaves behind a legacy far greater than possessions. Think of leaders, teachers, or parents who faced adversity with composure. Their calmness inspired others, creating a ripple effect that extended beyond their own lives. When you train your mind to remain calm in any situation, you are not only securing your own peace, but also setting an example for those around you. A calm presence can comfort the anxious, guide the lost, and stabilize the fearful. The Stoics believed that living with virtue and calmness was the highest service to humanity, because it demonstrated the strength of reason over chaos. Imagine being remembered not for wealth or achievements, but for the serenity you carried through storms, the dignity you showed under pressure, and the fairness you displayed in hardship. That legacy becomes a light for others to follow. Training your mind for calmness is therefore not a selfish pursuit. It is an offering to the world. When you face situations with composure, you teach by example, showing others that it is possible to remain steady amid turmoil. Your calmness may one day be the strength someone else needs to endure their own struggles. The Stoics remind us that our influence extends far beyond ourselves, and by cultivating calm, we plant seeds of peace in generations to come. The final truth of Stoicism is that calmness is not a destination but a lifelong practice. There will never be a point where challenges disappear or emotions vanish completely. Life will always bring uncertainty, loss, and difficulty. But the Stoics teach us that calmness is built not in the absence of struggle, but in our daily response to it. Every morning is a chance to train the mind anew. Every setback an opportunity to strengthen resilience. Every interaction a moment to practice patience. Calmness is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Some days you will falter, but even in those moments, reflection and renewal will bring you back to balance. The Stoics remind us that no progress is ever wasted. Every effort to master the self adds to the fortress of calm you are building. Over time, this discipline becomes part of your very nature, until remaining calm is no longer effort but instinct. To live as a Stoic is to live with a mind trained in wisdom, virtue, and serenity, ready to face any situation with strength. Calmness is not something life grants you, it is something you create through continuous practice. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of Stoicism, a calm, steady, unshakable mind that stands firm through the storms of existence and shines as a beacon of peace for the world.